yeah, I just started wondering if like maybe she's alive. So then I started wondering other things, dude. My mind kind of went all over the place because I'm 2 hours away from even like a half a bar of cell phone service. And I have no idea if she's alive in there or not. I knocked on the rig, no answer. And so I don't really want to leave, but like I have to, because like I have to go to work. Dude, I just woke up. Just woke up. So I opened the door and I figured that this would be just a great way to end this video because this is a huge rarity, dude. You do not see this very often around the Lake Powell, Page, Arizona area, and it is gorgeous. Look at that, dude. We got snow. Just a little dusting. Got a little neighbor over there too, I guess, but I'm gonna see if I can put the drone up. It'll be gone by noon, dude, so if you follow along with the channel, you know that it's super rare that I'm up early. So what a treat, dude, to wake up to. Well, hello there, guys. I'm out here at a spot I did not expect to be at again for a while, right across from Lake Powell. And I was on my way back from that other spot from the last video, and whenever I go through the town of Page, I always like to stop and refill on the free water and empty my tanks, regardless of how long it's been since the last time I did it, just because it's there and it's free and it takes like 10 minutes. So but I didn't want to stay in the Walmart parking lot, dude, and I had some video editing to do today. And it's not sunny right now, but it's been sunny all day. And this is a gorgeous area, and so I figured I would just park here for the night and take advantage of the amazing sun exposure and get some video editing done. But there's an amazing hike here. I mean, I'm right next to like all these crazy looking mountains, and there's a lot of really nice hikes here actually. But last time I was here, I went on a few hikes, but I was also kind of busy with video editing, and that was also like when I lost the drone and when my awning got completely destroyed. There was just like a lot of like little super annoying things going on, and so I didn't get to hike this area as much as I wanted to. And it's a beautiful day out, dude. I mean, I know that a lot of other people that like live in vehicles love to be in like the 60s and 70-degree weather, but like give me like a 40-degree day and that is perfect. Because when you go on hikes like this, you stay warm because you're moving the whole time, but like you never break a sweat. And I hate hiking and breaking a sweat. I don't know why. I don't mind breaking a sweat at the gym or anything like that, but like, you know, if I'm going on like an hour or two long walk or like a 5 hour long hike or something, like I would just rather be at like perfect temperature. I don't know. That's just my thing. But I mean, I've been wanting to make this video for a while now, for like a really long time now, actually, like months and months. It was one of my like first ideas of like a video to make when I was thinking about starting this channel. But once I started filming Truck Camper Life, I realized very quickly that I was not very comfortable talking into the camera, and I still struggle with that. It kind of depends on the day, really, and like how I'm feeling. I don't know. I suppose that's just kind of how it works in my life, really, though, too. Whether I feel like talking or not, it all just kind of depends on how I'm feeling that day. But yeah, this probably isn't the most opportune moment or time in my life to discuss this topic, but it is fresh in the brain, and I know that this is something that a lot of people think about and ask about, and so I figured that today I would just talk about, mostly from like my experience, obviously, what it's like to date when you are a nomad on the road, living out of a vehicle specifically. Pretty cool, dude. I feel like we're in the sand dunes in this part, dude. Pretty cool. And the reason that I've wanted to talk about this, really, because if you've been following along with the channel for a while, then you know that I've lived in 2 Sprinter vans before this, and those vans took years to build. And I ended up being kind of like stuck in Nebraska for like quite a long time. And so I did what probably most people that want to move out into a vehicle do. You know, I mean, I was stuck in like a city, not exactly living the life that I wanted yet. So I joined like all the van life discussion groups, like on Reddit and Facebook and stuff like that. And obviously I wanted to be kind of part of a community. It's funny how that kind of changes after you get out on the road, for me anyways. Nowadays, I really prefer to be camped far away from anyone and everyone, but I loved being in those groups and tossing ideas back and forth. And every once in a while, if I got something accomplished on like my van build or something, I'd throw a picture in there, you know, because I was super proud of myself or whatever that I built something. But one of the biggest topics that always popped up in those discussion forums and the groups and whatnot, usually single dudes, I'm not gonna lie, but like there were always people posting about like being lonely and wondering how they meet people on the road. And so many posts, dude. I suppose that's kind of neither here nor there, really. I could go on and on about some of the weird posts I've seen in those groups, not just on that, but especially on dating and things like that. And but that's not what this video is about. But the reason why I wanted to make this video is because I know that a lot of people that are single but want to go live in like a truck camper or a van or a Prius or whatever are probably concerned about how you're going to meet people on the road. And so I'm no expert at this. I've met a lot of amazing people on the road, though. I have a ton of really good friends. I've had a lot of very awesome relationships that I'm super grateful for. And I've also run into like some people that I definitely regret meeting, and I've run into some horrible situations and whatnot too on the road. And so I just figured I would share a couple of those stories. Maybe someone will resonate with it. Maybe it'll help somebody out looking for love or some friends or something. And then I guess I'll just tell you kind of how I feel about dating on the road and what my thoughts are on it, maybe a little bit of advice here and there. Not that I'm an expert, obviously. Pretty single right now, but anyway, the first date, I guess we'll start with like the first date that I ever went on when I hit the road in my second van. I got a job in Montana up right next to Glacier National Park, working at this place called the Sunflower Cafe. It was a sweet gig, dude, just cooking in a kitchen, working for two awesome people that like they live in the same van that I had, so that's probably why they hired me. But like, yeah, I was on Tinder, and I've always been on like all the apps, which I mean, like, word of advice, like if you want to meet people on the road, you don't want to be single, you're looking for some love, like download all the apps, dude. Like download Tinder, Bumble, Hinge. I think there's like Facebook dating now. Download the apps. There's no shame in that. I guess I'll elaborate on that more later. But anyway, I matched with someone on Tinder, and she lived in like a Class B type of rig, and she'd been a nomad for several years, and I saw pictures of her rig, looked like she had a sweet solar setup and whatnot. And she was a seasonal bartender working up at a place. I don't know, it was kind of far actually, which I'll get to in a little bit, but like she was about 2 hours in the opposite direction of like the main town where I was, which would be Kalispell. So like I was about 45 minutes to an hour away from Kalispell in one direction, like heading towards Glacier National Park. And then she was the opposite way, heading away from the park, like on the opposite side of Kalispell. So check this out, dude. Little cave here. There's all kinds of little nooks and crannies in this area, but I'll show you. It's pretty cool. Look at that. Pretty sweet spot, dude. This is just the beginning. So anyway, we matched on like the Tinder or something, I think. Pretty sure it was Tinder. And, you know, we talked for a little bit, and we decided to meet up on like our days off, and we decided to meet up in Kalispell and just go grab some Chipotle and, you know, go from there. Like obviously just grab some Chipotle, see if we like each other. If not, no worries. Peace out. No big deal, right? So we met at Chipotle, and we got some food and started shooting the shit, if you will. And everything was fine. She seemed like a super fun person to be around, and pretty high energy, but like, I don't know, dude, like I like that in people sometimes. Obviously I'm not like a super high energy type of person. And so sometimes being around someone with high energy actually helps me out, you know, it helps balance me out and stuff. So we got to talking, and as you guys know, my favorite thing to do is find spots. And that happened to be her favorite thing to do as well. So she started showing me pictures of like all these super sweet spots that she found in Montana, like over by her area. And I mean, these were like epic spots, dude, like on like cliffs in the mountains in Montana. Like if you've never been to Montana, that is the #1 state I would recommend that you go. I've never been to Alaska. I'm assuming once I've been to Alaska, then Montana will be a close second. But as of right now, Montana is amazing. It was my favorite place I've ever been, and I can't wait to go back. But so, you know, things were going pretty good. But I hadn't been in the area for that long. I'd only been in Montana maybe for like a month, I think. And she had been there for like maybe 2.5, 3 months. I don't remember exactly, but a lot longer than me. And we hit up a thrift store a little bit later after that, and things were still going pretty well. And so she invited me to drive back with her to one of her favorite spots in the forest, kind of like around her area. Now I said I would get to like the distance thing, dude, but like I assumed, because she only lived like an hour away from Kalispell, that like this spot was probably going to be around there, you know? So I'm like, okay, an hour, no big deal. But like one thing that I definitely know now and did not know then, because I hadn't lived in a van long enough. I mean, I had lived in a van, like in Nebraska, like in Lincoln, Nebraska, but like I hadn't been out on the road in the forests and like on BLM land and stuff like that. Definitely wasn't as experienced as like I am now. And now, if I ever meet up with anyone and they mention going back to their spot, my first question would always be, how far away is it from here? Because like, if I have a job, like at a restaurant, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that the spot is right next to that restaurant. A lot of times in these towns, a lot of these spots that you see me find on this channel, I mean, dude, they're like miles and miles and hours into the backcountry, outside of towns, away from everything. So, but I didn't ask. And I said, yeah, absolutely. I had a couple days off, wasn't too worried about it, seemed like a nice person. So I followed her into the woods. And dude, I kid you not, that was like 3 hours. And I mean, that was like, sorry, a couple off-roaders went by in Dodges, dude, of course, Dodge trucks. So I stopped there to let them pass. And dude, they cleared this. I know the camera doesn't pick up how gnarly that drop off is. It never does. They cleared this too. Like, no problem whatsoever. I love my truck. So like, dude, I kid you not, that drive was 3 hours. And the thing is, like, Montana is a lot different than anywhere else that I've ever been anyway. I suppose Washington is a little bit similar, but like, we went miles and miles. I mean, like an hour and a half, 2 hours off of the main road, down forest roads. And again, you guys are probably gonna laugh at me here on this one, because like you're probably just gonna be like, wow, dude, you're an idiot. But like, that was 2 hours ish of forest roads where there's absolutely no cell service whatsoever. And and again, I trusted her. I feel like I'm a pretty good judge of character. I still feel that way for the most part. Obviously, no one's perfect, including me, but beautiful drive, dude. Beautiful drive. And I just remember how much I enjoyed that drive in, actually, because we stopped at like several spots along the way and checked them out and decided if we wanted to stay there or not. It was just like two people with a lot of similarities hanging out looking for spots, which is like, you guys know, it's like my favorite thing to do. So like, it was a good time. Plus like, and this lasted the whole summer, but on that day, I had downloaded it before we went into the no service, but like, I like this band called Local Natives, and they had just released a new album. And dude, the first 3 songs on that album were so good. And it was like right when we were getting into like the forest, like on the cliff part. It was great. It was just a good time. So we did find a spot, and both of our rigs fit perfectly. And it was like right by a river too. It was perfect, man. You know, we had a couple drinks and just kind of shot the shit and whatnot. And it started kind of getting a little bit cold. And I mean, the whole time while we were doing this, like, she was super high energy and kind of bouncing around, running back and forth from her camper or whatever. But like, I don't know, I just didn't think anything of it, because like, I run back and forth from my camper all the time when I'm hanging out outside. It's my house. I have my stuff in my house. As the sun started setting, she invited me back into her place. Obviously, I was in a van. She had like a Class B thing. So she had like a couch, and it was just a lot bigger. She had a lot of the amenities. It was even bigger than like my truck camper. I mean, now I've got a couch and all of those amenities in my camper. But so yeah, I went back to her van. It was starting to get cold. That's just how dates go, you know? And we're sitting on the couch, dude. And like, I guess the first thing I will bring up, and I mean, it's not like a deal breaker, dude. Like, I don't shower as often as I definitely should. I suppose in one of these videos I'll tell you why I don't use my shower in my truck camper, but I don't want this video to end up being like 45 minutes long like the last walk and talk. I suppose we'll see, but so that's not for this video. But like, I'm not a very judgmental person, dude. Like, I understand that like people that live in vehicles, the hygiene is maybe a little bit less. We're all gonna smell. I smell all the time, but like, she had a couple cats, dude, and like when I went into her rig, oh my gosh, it was like the worst smell I've ever smelled like in my entire life. And I will say that like after this experience, I still could not get that smell like out of my clothes for like, it was just a long time. And even like the lingering, I don't know, the smell lingered even like in my nostrils for like a super long time after this. It was just so gross, dude. And I'll never forget it. I can smell it right now, just talking and thinking about it. Ugh. Ugh. But like, so this is where it gets a little weird. I don't do drugs, dude, really that much. I've done a lot of drugs in the past. I have nothing against drugs. I don't have anything against people doing drugs or whatever. But like, as soon as we got in there, like with 5 minutes later, I kind of realized why she'd been bouncing around like the whole time ever since like the beginning when we met. And it was because she was snorting blow like the whole time, like all day, dude. And she offered me some, and obviously I said no. And again, like I said, no judgment here, dude. I've done drugs. I have no issue with people that do drugs. It's just not my thing really anymore, you know? I know that like I'm like a homeless person basically that lives in a truck camper, but like I still have boundaries for myself and things that I just don't do. And drugs is just one of them, really. I don't know. So anyway, at that point, once I realized that she'd like been on blow like the entire time and started kind of observing her a little bit more, I just kind of decided to call it a night, really. That was pretty much the end of it for me. The smell, dude, on top of that, like the cat piss smell in there was just so bad. And then when I found out that she'd been doing blow the whole time, I was just kind of over it, man. Like, that was the end of it for me. So I decided to call it a night, and that was that. I went into my van, went to bed. No big deal, dude. Sometimes she goes, sometimes she doesn't, you know? It's just the way she goes. So like the next morning, I woke up at like, I don't know, regular morning time, I suppose. I sleep in pretty late usually, but like her rig was still shut. So I waited around because like I didn't want to be rude, but I did want to leave, and I did have to leave that day at some point. It was about 3.5, 4 hours back to West Glacier, and I did have to work the next day, but I waited to say goodbye because like I didn't want to be rude, you know? So I waited and waited and waited, and then I waited until, I kid you not, dude, like I waited until like 4:35 in the afternoon, evening, 4:35 in the afternoon, evening. And like, there is a cave over this direction. If I decide to take this road, we'll see if we have time on the way back, which I think is what I said last time when I did this hike. Anyway, though, 4:30, 5 o'clock rolls around. I don't know, dude, like I'm alone out there in the woods. The wheels kind of start turning, you know. There's a lot of brain thinking that goes on when you're out there alone in the woods. But like, I start wondering if maybe something bad happened, dude. Like, there's a lot of like fentanyl and around this time, dude, like it was all over the news. I mean, I know that it still kind of is, but like about people getting things laced with that type of stuff and dying. Yeah, I just started wondering if like maybe she's alive. So then I started wondering other things, dude. My mind kind of went all over the place because I'm 2 hours away from even like a half a bar of cell phone service. And I have no idea if she's alive in there or not. I knocked on the rig, no answer. And so I don't really want to leave, but like I have to, because like I have to go to work. So I don't know if she's okay. I don't know if she's dead in there. I have to leave and go to work. I'm also wondering, like, if I do leave, like, what do I do? Do I just like leave the woods and do nothing? because then, you know, like whenever it happens, when someone goes out there, if they find that she is dead and they see like my tire tracks, then like I'm a suspect, you know? But also at the same time, it's like, well, I don't want to call the police or anyone because like she could have just stayed up all night doing blow and like just could be sleeping it off, and I don't want to get anyone in trouble either. So I finally like I finally just decided to write her a note and just leave it on her rig. And I still have that note, which is hilarious. Somewhere. It's somewhere in my truck camper. I don't know. I still have that note just as a memory of this time. I had like a seltzer water case because I don't carry a pen and paper, dude. But I had like a case of seltzer water, so I ripped the cardboard off of it, and on the back of it I had like a Sharpie, and I wrote a note just kind of saying like, hey, it's good to hang out. It's a fun time. See you later. I had to go to work. You know, that kind of thing. Look at this view, dude, real quick. Look at that view, dude. I'm walking this way. So I always forget when I'm walking uphill to stop and look behind me. Obviously, like knowing that like once you get up high, there's probably going to be a view. Anyway, I got done with this note and I'm just about ready to like go drop it off on her, like to go drop it off on her rig. I think I was looking for like tape or like somewhere to like put the note. And I had started my van and I was getting ready to leave. And she finally did come out of her rig and she looked super embarrassed. Yeah, so she gave me a hug and then I said, see you later. And we definitely never talked again. So yeah, that was my first date in my van as a Nomad. I'd say it went pretty well, dude. No one died. That's usually a good thing on a date, is if nobody dies. So I think what I learned from that though is obviously know the distance that you're gonna go. I probably should have been a little bit more observant, dude. Like probably should have recognized that there was like drug use early on. Sometimes though that stuff is kind of hard to tell. Even like with alcoholics, sometimes like that's been a little tough to tell. Like if they're drunk during the day, you know, people that use drugs pretty heavily, sometimes it's just hard to tell. So after that, still in Montana, I definitely didn't date for a little while, which was fine, dude. You can watch some of my previous videos and they'll tell you all the stuff that I did in Montana, which was basically nothing, just a ton of hiking and a lot of straight up just living in a van, camping right next down by a river. So, but I think this was also on Tinder. I'm not completely sure. I don't exactly remember which app it was. Pretty sure it was Tinder though. And I had not been on the apps actually in quite a while. I wasn't using them or anything, didn't really open them, but I was like in town. I don't remember the name of the town that I was in. I was in one of the little smaller towns on like my day off, and just at like one of the little grocery stores in the mountains of Montana, probably just to pick up like a frozen pizza or something. But I got a notification on my phone that I had a match. And so I opened up my phone and I was like, that's weird. I haven't been on Tinder in a while. But like, wow, dude, like I opened it up and like, there she was, just like a super beautiful woman who lived in a minivan. And there were like pictures of like all the hikes she'd been on and like all the places she'd traveled and stuff, and like seemed pretty sweet to me. So obviously I sent her a message and like I got a response like right away, and that was pretty cool, dude. So like definitely out of the blue, because again, I hadn't been on Tinder in a while. So where I wanted to go is still like another mile and a half-ish up, like straight up this hill here. But there's definitely like some weather coming in, dude, and which is cool. It might snow, but the wind is going to be crazy up there. And my last walk and talk was a huge pain to make because I was just dodging the wind everywhere, dude, trying to make sure that the audio was going to be okay. And I don't want to deal with that again. So we're going to head back down kind of towards the camper. So I messaged this gorgeous woman who's traveling in a minivan, and we met up down by the river, dude. I offered to cook her dinner by the river. I told her I knew of a sweet river spot, and it's a great place to shoot the breeze, and I had the day off, and I told her that I'm going down there and I'd be happy to cook you some dinner, and we can shoot the shit. So the way that that story kind of goes, really, dude, is after that, we spent pretty much the rest of the summer together. She was only going to be there for like a week, and maybe even less than a week in the glacier area, but she stayed there for like a month and a half, dude, after we met. And we would just always go hang out in the woods. And we obviously went and explored Glacier National Park all over the place. And that was just an amazing summer. And we're still friends to this day. It kind of didn't really work out like romantically, dude. Obviously also the seasonal job thing kind of held me back. That's another thing that does happen in nomadic types of relationships. Like everybody's kind of got their own goal or destination of where they're going, and like she hiked like 14ers, dude, like all the time, and she had super important goals and hikes that she wanted to accomplish up in Canada, and also a couple that she wanted to accomplish in Colorado before like winter set in, you know. And so she had to leave, and that was fine. They were very important to her, and but I had a job, so I had to stay. And then we did reconnect like one more time after that, but then like, I don't know, several months later, my van got destroyed, which I made a video about that. But after that, I did not date at all, because I was now in search of a brand new place to live, and that was a huge bummer. So I suppose that is another story of dating on the road for me that ended up very positive. It went well. No regrets. Obviously still friends with that person. I doubt she watches this channel. She's one of those too cool for school type of van lifers that which there's a lot of them out there, dude. I run into them all the time that do not appreciate YouTubers like myself. So if anything, if she saw this YouTube channel, she would definitely make fun of me for it. So I don't want this video to go too crazy long, dude. Like I don't like editing a lot of these videos of me just yapping away. So I suppose what I will say is, like, if you're a single person and you want to go live in like a truck camper or a van or a Prius, you want to be nomadic, download the apps, dude. I will say, if you're like a single guy, that's all that I ever see in like all the discussion forums and on the pages and in the groups and stuff, is like just single dudes always just like wondering why they can't find someone. And I don't know, dude. I'm not like the greatest looking person out there, and definitely not the tallest or darkest or handsomest person out there, but I've just never had any sort of a problem meeting people. I guess I can give you like a few guidelines, and I guess on that note too, now that I'm thinking about it, I will share one more story as well. But first and foremost, don't go approach people at their campsites when they're like all alone. You know, if you're like walking by from a distance or something like that, it's not a big deal to like just, you know, wave and smile or something. But like, dude, like, do not approach people at their campsite. Do not just like walk straight up to their campsite in a remote area where like there's not very many people around. That scares people. The other thing I would say is like download the apps. After several experiences, I personally only date people now that live in rigs that are nomads. And so I search for that. Yeah, you got to be a little pickier on the apps. Yeah, you're not going to swipe right or up or like or heart or whatever on as many people, but like you'll definitely find a much stronger connection with people similar to you, especially on the road. I definitely wouldn't as a single dude anyway. I don't worry about whether or not I've showered that day. I definitely don't worry about like whether my rig is like super messy or not. I'm pretty proud of like what I've gone through in life and like who I am now, and I'm not ashamed of like the way that I live. So I seek out people who I know aren't going to judge me for that, and if they are, then I mean, it's whatever. It's the way she goes. It's just not going to work out, you know? So, and I think that's like one of the things that I always kind of read in a lot of the nomad groups is like the shame, I suppose. Like, how am I supposed to find someone if like I'm basically homeless, you know? Like, who's going to want me? Or how do I meet other people on the road when I haven't showered in days, or like I'm barely scraping by, or like I slept in a Walmart parking lot last night, just things like that. All of those things, dude, from my experience, I know other people have had other experiences, but from my experience, that's just never held me back, man. I've never had someone say no to like meeting up for a hike or a coffee or whatever, some sort of a date, because of like my lifestyle. And if anything, actually, I would put your lifestyle on your profile, dude. I've run into so many amazing people on those dating apps that would have probably never swiped right or hit like or whatever, depending on the app, had I not lived in a van and a truck camper. My last relationship, that was on a dating app. That would have never happened if I didn't live in a truck camper. And I mean, that was a really good time, dude. That was, obviously it's over. Way she goes. But like, that would have never happened. You'll meet so many amazing people if you just put that you live in a truck camper or a van or an RV or a Prius or whatever on your profile. You'll meet your kind of people, and those are the kind of people you want to meet. So on like the approaching people, like in their campsites and whatnot, I'm going to tell you a story of a time that I scared someone. And I felt so bad, and I never want to do it again, and I never will. I did not think things through, really. But this was when I was living in a van in Lincoln, Nebraska. When I lived in my van in Lincoln, Nebraska, all I pretty much did was DoorDash the whole time. So at the end of the night, when I was done DoorDashing, I had several places around town that I would go. But like once every other week, I would go to my favorite spot that was kind of on the outskirts of town, but it was on something called WMA land, which is like basically Nebraska BLM land, but it's free to stay for 3 days at a time, like every 2 weeks or something. And it was next to a pond. For someone living in a van in Lincoln, Nebraska, it's as out there in the wild as you're gonna get, you know? And so I loved it. I loved going there and just relaxing. It felt like maybe I wasn't like one of those dudes that just lives in his van in the city, you know, that type of thing. And every once in a while, because like that spot is on iOverlander, and so every once in a while you would see nomads that would come through and just stay the night. Obviously, if you're passing through Nebraska, that's a great place to stop overnight. If you need a place to stay, it takes a long time to drive through Nebraska. So I would see nomads every once in a while, but every time that I would wake up the next day, they were gone. So this one morning, I woke up and I was making coffee, and I saw a van with like solar panels on it, like an old Dodge van, dude. It was a super cool looking rig. And like I was just sitting there having some coffee, and from where I was, I could see their rig, they could see mine, no big deal. But the person got out of the car, and they were adjusting, like, it looked like adjusting like their solar shower or something on top of their rig. And like, dude, I thought about this. I really did. Like, I was in my pajama pants, this person can see me. They obviously saw my rig when they pulled in the night before. They can see that like I live in a van. And so I just decided to walk over there and say hi. And also I thought it was a dude. Okay. This was not like me going over and like approaching like a woman for like with any sort of a motive or anything. When they got out of their van and they were like adjusting their solar shower or whatever it was, like they had short, like super short hair, and I could only see them like from the back, but it looked like just like a younger guy, like maybe like a dude like in his 20s or something, just like a skinny younger dude. So I walked over there and I did it slowly, smile on the face, you know, whatever. I just wanted to talk to another nomad, dude. I mean, I was stuck in Nebraska for so long, like really wanted to talk to somebody else that like lived in a van and traveled, maybe listen to some cool stories, make a friend. But when I got up close, it was in fact not a dude. It was a woman, and she was terrified. She ran back into her rig, like she ran into like her driver's seat because that was like the closest door. And I was still like quite a ways away. I mean, I was quite a ways away still. So it's not like I jumped up on her, and I'm pretty sure I said like hi also, like from a distance. But she was terrified. And so she just sat in there and she put her hands like over her head, dude, like inside of like her driver's seat. I don't know what that was supposed to accomplish, but like she was scared and reacting. So I just stopped, dude. I stopped like immediately. And I just kind of very as calmly as I could, but also like with a loud enough voice that she could hear me, but like trying not to sound like I was yelling, obviously in this situation. But like I just yelled over to her like, hey, I am super sorry to have scared you. My name is Jared. I'm parked in that van like over there. And the moment that I did that, I said, I'm parked in that van over there. And then I turned around and looked where I was pointing, and there was a slight hill, dude. So she couldn't see my van. She couldn't see that my van was parked over there. She rolled in overnight. And so in her mind, like some random guy's just walking over to her in the middle of nowhere and she can't see where he came from. Anyway, I apologized like several times, several different ways, started backing away. I just said, I'm so sorry to bother you, etc. Like, I felt horrible. I felt really, really bad. And I never, the look of fear and terror in her eyes, I never want to be responsible for putting that look into someone's eyes ever again. So anyway, a little bit later, probably it actually wasn't really that much later, probably because I scared her, but like she drove out of the spot and she had to go past my van to drive out of the spot. And so she left, and as she's driving by my van, I was just sitting in my driver's seat, just finishing coffee. I was getting ready to leave too. And I did feel a little bit better at that point because like when she did drive by, she did look at me, and she looked at me like kind of with that look of like, oh, he was just like a dude in a van and he did really just want to make friends, and maybe I did kind of overreact. Like she had that look in her eyes of like, kind of like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, but at the same time, I don't know. She really didn't have anything to be sorry about. I mean, she's out there in a state that she doesn't live in the middle of nowhere, just trying to be safe. And I just kind of pounced up on her unintentionally, obviously, but that's how it looked, dude. So, but she did wave at me and she did smile, and I obviously I never saw that person again either. But that is why I will never go approach someone just like at a campsite like that ever again, if it's remote, dude. It's a little bit different if like you're in Montana, outside of like West Glacier, and you're like parked at like a river spot that like you're surrounded by like tons and tons of rigs, you know, because it's the only place to park. Or like probably if you're in Quartzsite too, I'm sure it can be somewhat similar that way as well. But like even at like Lake Powell, like right over here at Lake Powell, you know, there's all kinds of rigs kind of parked close to each other on that beach area. Like, sure, at that point, dude, I have no problem like walking up to someone and just saying hello, because I know I'm not just gonna scare them. But out in remote areas, that is just something not to do. And I do read things like that in a lot of the discussion forums and groups. And obviously I have a lot of friends that are also nomads, and that's like their number one thing that they hate is when dudes approach them at their campsites or at their rigs. It's somewhat scary. So I suppose that's my story about that. And then I guess the last thing, I don't know. I have done this and I will never do it again. As long as I live this lifestyle anyway. I don't date people that live in houses anymore, really, or like apartments or anything like that. And I've met some like super amazing people that do live in like houses and apartments, and I've gone on dates with them and had great times for sure. A couple of those people probably even watch this channel and we're still friends. It's all good, dude. But like when you date someone that like lives in like the same place and doesn't really like have their own rig, it does kind of limit you. And again, this is just like my thing, like my experience, my truck camper life, my van life journey, you know. Obviously, if it's not a big deal to you, if someone lives in a house and you live in a truck camper or whatever, you're mobile, you know, more power to you, man. You'll have more options, you know, that way. So, but I just found that, first of all, one thing I would look out for that has happened to me several times, I have gone on dates with people that literally kind of, and this sounds super weird, dude, but like they literally like used me for like a taste of the lifestyle. And this was back when I lived in a van, because I've never let this happen to me in my truck camper. You know, van life is a pretty glorified thing on the internet. And so as a single guy, I would run into people that really weren't serious, like they didn't really want to date or anything, but they were super stoked to like go live one night of van life and just see what it was like, you know. But then after that, obviously they have jobs, dude. They have houses, they have permanent location types of obligations. Also at the same time, man, there was like a couple instances there where it was clearly just like, wow, these people really weren't even into me, like as a person, like at all. They just wanted to go out and see what it's like to live a little bit of that van life, you know? And so now, just because of things like that, and then also like I don't want to be tied down to like one city or have to continue to frequent the same city. That's also why like I don't want to work seasonal jobs for the rest of my life, on a side note there, just because I don't like being stuck in the same place forever. I like having the freedom to be able to go wherever I want. I mean, isn't that the point if you live in a truck camper? But because of those reasons, that's why I personally don't date people unless they like live in a rig now. Never say never though, right? I mean, I know how this world works and I know how this life goes, and I know that there is always someone out there that could totally change my mind and make me bend that rule for sure. But so far that is a rule that I've stuck to, and I'm pretty happy with it. So man, that wind is picking up, dude. We are almost back to the camper, and I hope that the audio comes through on this last thing. I was actually about to wrap it up there, but then I remembered one more thing that I wanted to say, just again based off of only my experience, dude. It's not always like this, but I'm very careful now on the road about who I date. And the reason being, I'm trying to think of like the most polite way to say this. A lot of people that like live out here on the road, there's reasons that they live out here on the road, you know. And I am not excluded from that group of people. There's reasons that I live out on the road too. And I would say my experience with like 90% of nomads that I've met and had relationships with, or friendships with, anything like that, coworkers, all of it, almost every nomad that I've ever met, dude, suffers from a lot of trauma that they've experienced in their life that they haven't dealt with. And I don't know if that's why we all kind of ended up like out here living on the road as a way to maybe like run away from our problems or something like that. But like, so I guess all I'm trying to say is like, be careful who you do choose to spend your time with out on the road. I try to be nothing but like empathetic to people and try to understand where they're coming from and whatnot. But like, some of these people out here, they do a lot of drugs. They are drug addicts. They probably do it to numb the pain that they still have within themselves from their trauma. That trauma also comes out in other ways, dude, through arguments, disagreements. A lot of times people lash out irrationally or like act like children. And then obviously like, there's just a lot of characters out here on the road, and I have no judgment towards any of them. I'm just very careful now about who I choose to date, and I definitely have no problem with people that have trauma. I have so much trauma that I have not completely dealt with within myself, and there are things about me that I guarantee people hate, because I am that way, and I am that way because of like the trauma, dude. So like, I'm not different than anybody else. I guess all I'm trying to say is that like, there are a lot of characters out here on the road, and so just kind of try to use your best judgment. Nobody's perfect, dude. I love people. I love all of the people that I've ever dated. I loved them for their flaws. I think the flaws and quirky little characteristics and just weird things about people is what makes people unique. And those are the things that I find most beautiful in people. And so even if they have trauma, I love people. So, but I don't like to camp around them very often. Not too many of them anyway. So I suppose on that note, dude, I'm almost back here at the camper. So I think hopefully I said everything I need to say to make some sort of a decent video. If you do have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them in the best way I know possible anyway, without like giving up way too much personal information or whatnot. But yeah, guys, I suppose that about wraps this one up. Way she goes, I suppose. If you made it this far in the video, then chances are you're probably into this kind of stuff. So make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and keep on living that dream. And if you haven't found that dream yet, don't stop looking for it, because you never know where it might be. You might even find that it's living out of a truck camper, just taking a stroll, reminiscing all the times that you had success on Tinder. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.